I was born Lois Richardson on October 3rd, 1925, in my parents' home on Pennsylvania Avenue in Westminster, Maryland. I'm sorry I don't know the house number. I was delivered by a midwife, Mrs. Marley, and Dr. Fitzhugh, and weighed in at 6 pounds, a tiny one. I already had an older brother and an older sister, Anita. Niece. Never thought much about my name until I was older, and then my mom told me that she took Lois from the Bible. Lois was Timothy's grandmother, 2 Timothy 11:5. Adelaide was my paternal grandmother's poor Adelaide. When I was 2 years old, we moved to Baltimore City because my dad started a seed business in downtown Baltimore. His business was called E. Miller Richardson and Company. We lived in a big house on 4134 Forest Park Avenue. I can remember the house very well. We had a big front porch with about 11 steps up to it from the sidewalk. When I was almost 3, I fell down all the 11 steps while I was riding my tricycle on the porch, and the handlebar cut through my lower lip. I still have the scar today. Okay. Also, during a thunderstorm and lightning struck nearby, and it scared me so much that even now I hide during a storm under a table or blanket. I also have good memories of our front porch. I used to play house with blankets and would sit on a bushel basket underneath the blanket. I guess it was more of a tent house. One of my special memories is my friendship with a girl I used to play with. I forgot her name, but she was deaf and non-speaking. We would sit together for hours making a clover chain that reached all around my house. When the grass would grow tall, long stemmed clovers popped up, and we picked them and tied them together to make the chain. Did you ever do that, to make a daisy chain?
Yeah, with flowers.
I don't remember this, but I was told that when I was 4, I was kicked out of Sunday school because I scratched and pulled hair of the other children. In fact, my Uncle Don, my mother's brother, always called me Scratchy, even when I grew up. My family tells me that I never shut up. I talk all the time, and if no one was around, I talk to myself. On Saturdays, we would go to the movies. I guess I was about 8. We would buy jawbreakers to eat during the movie. They were the size of a quarter, chocolate on the outside, and hard caramel on the inside. We had to suck them because they were too hard for a little mouth to chew. I think I saw all of the Shirley Temple movies, and that is when my love for dancing started. Every evening after my dad came home, we ate dinner, and then we had to sit quietly while Dan and Mom listened to Lowell Thomas. He was a newscaster on the radio. Dad thought we were getting current events, but my mind wasn't up to that. I was in a dream world all by myself. Also, we would listen to a mystery called The Shadow. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. The program opened with the sound of a squeaky door, and that was scary to me. Now, my dad had a beautiful rose garden in the backyard. In the center of the garden, there was a gazing globe, which is a silver mirror-like ball on top of a 3-foot-high marble base. I remember looking at myself in it because since the globe was round like a ball, my face was all contorted, and I would make funny faces and entertain myself. The only one in the family that was born in a hospital. I don't remember my sister's birth, but I remember my mom pregnant with Nancy, and Mom wore a gray flannel dress that I thought was real ugly. I have to tell you about Bertha. My mom worked for a cosmetic company called Beauty Counselor. It is now called Fonda Cosmetics. In order for Mom to work away from home and always manage a family, she hired Bertha to take care of us kids. Bertha was like a second mom to us. When we were bad, she would spank us, but we kids had much respect for her. Once when I was pushing my little sister Nancy on her tricycle. I teased her and pushed her off the tricycle, and Bertha gave me a spanking on my bottom. Bertha would play games with us, and sometimes she would let me stand on her feet, and holding my hand, we would dance until I would fall off. Let me tell you that my mom and dad raised us with the principles of right and wrong. I will never forget when I stole dimes from my dad's bank that he kept on his room dresser. I stole the money for ice cream to buy in school. When Mom and Dad found out that I was the guilty one, the look of hurt on their faces was all the punishment I needed. I felt so sad and guilty that I've never stolen anything since then. You kids hear of kids being kidnapped in today's world, and that went on when I was a little girl too. One evening I was playing hopscotch on the sidewalk in back of our house. I was about 8 years old. A man got out of a delivery truck and came over to me and tried to pick me up. I screamed and kicked him. He dropped me and left in the truck in a hurry. Mom and I got in her car and tried to find the van but couldn't. Also, when I was in the 3rd grade, I went to the school bathroom and a man came in and grabbed me, but I screamed and bit him, and he left. I always was a fighter. I attended school number 4 in Baltimore City. My brother Max, sister Neats, and I walked about 6 blocks to school. I repeated 1st grade because I had trouble learning to read. I liked school but was shy when the teacher would call on me. When I was in the 4th grade, did you want coffee?
No.
When I was in the 6th grade, our family moved to the country in Carroll County. My dad's parents owned a big farm, and we moved to a nice little house next to them. Our home was located 6 miles from Westminster and 3 miles from New Windsor. It was a super place to grow up. On the farm there was a huge barn and a chicken house, smokehouse, spring house, and a 2-seater outhouse. Behind the barn was a big woods. My friend and I played hide and seek in the woods, and sometimes we took picnic lunch and spent hours there making believe and thinking of all sorts of interesting things to play. My grandparents had a family that lived in the back of their home. They did all the work on the farm. Their names were Mr. and Mrs. Warner. Their daughter, Virginia, and I was a year younger, and we were very good friends, and I would tag along with her and help her to do some of the farm work. The farm was a big dairy farm, which meant they had about 35 milking cows. The farmer sold the milk to milk dealers. They also raised chickens for eggs and pigs for food. The farm consisted of 120 acres, and they also grew corn and wheat. They had four workhorses which pulled the wagons and plows. We didn't have tractors in those days. I had one favorite horse named Rock. He was pure white, and I would ride him bareback when the farmer would allow. After a few years, Rock became sick, and when the horse is sick and becomes weak, they lie down. Did you know that horses sleep standing up? Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, and they sleep sitting up too if they want to. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the farmer, Mr. Warner, told me that Rock was dying and that he was out in the meadow lying down. I ran out to Rock, sat down and put his head on my lap. He died while I was holding him. I cried and cried and put my head on his, and then I ran to my house, screaming, "Rock is dead, Rock is dead." You know, I remember doing that, nobody paid any attention to me. You know, I was so upset, my horse had died, and so what? I mean, it was like I was so disappointed. I had many good memories of the farm. Never boring for a moment. I would go to the chicken house to gather eggs. Each chicken had their own box with straw in the bottom. I would feel under the setting hen for an egg. Sometimes there would be 2 or 4 eggs under one hen. I gathered the eggs and put them in a basket and carried them home for us to eat. Now listen to this, Jordan. The farmer taught me to milk cows. I put a bucket between my knees under the udder of the cow and rested my head against the cow's flank, and my fingers worked on her teats. You know what teats are? Have you ever seen a cow? They're little things that hang down.
The udders.
And then you pull on them and the milk comes out.
Like udders. You know what udder is, right?
I squirt the milk in my mouth. The milk was warm and sweet tasting. The pig pens, I never got too close. They really did smell. But when a sow had piglets, I ventured to look to see the baby piglets nursing their mom. Often there would be 8 or 10 little babies. Now listen to this. This is really weird. If Mom wanted a chicken for dinner, I would run out and catch a chicken. I put its head under its wings and rock it like a baby, and that would put the chicken to sleep. And then I would put the chicken neck on a wood stump and axe off the head of the chicken and throw the remaining chicken on the ground. And the chicken would hop around for about 30 seconds, even though it didn't have its head. I put that little statement in. Next, I put the chicken in a bucket of hot water for 3 minutes and then pulled off all the feathers until it was naked. Took a knife and split the belly and took out all the innards. Sometimes there would be an egg inside without the shell. Mom would then cut up the chicken, fry it, and that was our dinner. Sounds gross to you, but that's how it was living on a farm. The milk from the cow for the family was kept in a big metal can in the spring house. The spring house had a natural cold water spring, and when we were out of milk, we would go to the spring house and ladle milk from the big can into a smaller quart can. The milk was called raw milk. It was not pasteurized in those days. Fresh from the cow and full of cholesterol.